What if the town was never built to trap people? What if it was built to create them? Not prisoners, not survivors. Something else. Because after everything we've seen in From, one question still refuses to go away. Who created the town? Everyone keeps asking how people escape. But that's the wrong question. The real mystery isn't the exit. It's the architect. Because places like this don't simply appear. The roads loop with impossible precision. The monsters follow strict rules. The trees move at exactly the right moments. The talismans work in ways nobody can explain. Even time itself seems broken. None of this feels random. It feels engineered. And here's what changes everything. What if every strange event we've watched wasn't chaos? It was part of a system that has been running for hundreds of years. A system designed by someone or something that wanted this town to exist exactly as it is. And if that's true, then every death, every vision, every nightmare was planned long before anyone arrived. That's the theory we're exploring today. The town wasn't cursed. It wasn't discovered. It was created. Deliberately. Carefully. For a purpose we still don't fully understand. Now look at what the show is actually telling us. Every family arrives in almost the same way. A normal journey. A blocked road. A fallen tree. A detour. Then suddenly, they're trapped. Think about that sequence. The tree is never an accident. It's always waiting. Almost like an invitation. Or, even worse, a filter. The town doesn't grab random travelers. It chooses them. And this is the detail everyone missed. Nobody decides to enter the town. The town decides who is allowed to find it. That completely changes how we should view every episode. We've spent years believing the characters are victims of bad luck. But what if they were selected? Selected because each one carries something important.
Fear, guilt, trauma, hope, loss.
Every new arrival brings emotional baggage. Almost like they're carrying fuel. Why would a mysterious place need emotionally broken people? Unless emotions themselves are part of the design. Now think about Boyd. Why Boyd? Out of everyone trapped in the town, he naturally became the leader. Not because someone voted for him. Because the town kept pushing him into impossible choices. Every decision Boyd makes changes the balance between hope and despair. Almost like someone is measuring him, testing him, watching what he'll do under pressure. That's not coincidence. That's experimentation. And if Boyd is being tested, who is running the test? The monsters?
No.
The monsters don't behave like creators. They behave like employees. Look closely at how they hunt. They don't sprint. They don't chase recklessly. They walk. They smile. They speak calmly. Sometimes they know personal information they shouldn't know. Sometimes they manipulate instead of attacking. That's fascinating, because predators usually want food. These creatures seem to want reactions.
Fear, trust,
False hope.
despair.
Almost like collecting emotional responses is more important than killing. That's not the behavior of wild monsters. That's the behavior of observers. Imagine scientists studying lab animals. The goal isn't immediate death. The goal is data. Now suddenly, those smiling faces become much more disturbing. Because maybe they're not hunting. Maybe they're recording. But here's what changes everything again. If the monsters are only observers, then someone higher is observing them. Every experiment has a supervisor. Someone who designed the rules. Someone who decides when those rules change. Think about the nights before the talismans were discovered. People hid underground. They ran. They prayed. Most died. Then Boyd finds the talismans. Suddenly, the entire structure of the town changes.
Why? Because the experiment evolved.
Look at what the show is actually telling us. The talismans weren't hidden forever. They became available exactly when the story needed them. Almost like someone wanted the survivors to reach the next phase. That's incredibly important. Real prisons don't suddenly hand prisoners better tools. Experiments do. The subjects survive longer. The observations become deeper. The emotional suffering becomes more complex. Now add another piece. Victor. Victor may be the oldest surviving resident. He's watched generations arrive and disappear. Yet, he rarely asks who created the town. Instead, he focuses on remembering drawings, memories, patterns.
Why?
Because deep down, Victor seems to understand something terrifying. Memory is the only thing stronger than the town. Notice how often his drawings reveal truths before anyone else understands them. Almost like they're fragments of information the town failed to erase. That raises another disturbing possibility. What if the town resets more than people realize? Not physically, mentally. Every cycle wipes away understanding. Only fragments survive. A drawing, a story, a nursery rhyme, a forgotten conversation. That's why nobody ever reaches the complete truth. Because every generation starts almost from zero. And this is where it gets darker. What if Victor isn't simply remembering the past? What if he's resisting the system itself? Every picture he draws becomes an act of rebellion. Every memory he protects becomes stolen evidence. Evidence against whoever built this place. Now, let's think about the buildings. The diner, the sheriff's station, the church, the colony house. Everything looks familiar, almost comforting, but none of it feels truly alive. It's like someone recreated a small American town without fully understanding how real towns work. Electricity exists, but nobody knows where it comes from. Phones exist, but they don't function normally. Roads exist, but they lead nowhere. It's an imitation, a carefully constructed stage. Almost like someone copied human civilization from memory. Why would they do that? Because the town isn't meant to feel real. It's meant to feel believable enough that people stop asking questions. That's exactly what controlled environments do. They create just enough normality to make the impossible acceptable. And once that happens, the experiment can begin. But here's the question that changes every single episode we've watched. If someone built the town, who were they expecting to arrive? Because maybe the Matthews family,
Boyd,
Victor,
Tabitha,
Jade, none of them are the true targets. Maybe they were only the latest pieces added to a design that started centuries ago. And if that's true, then the creator of the town may still be watching, still waiting, still preparing for the final stage of the experiment. If the town really is an experiment, then every strange object inside it has only one purpose: to control the experiment without the subjects realizing it. And that's where the Faraway Trees completely changed the theory. For years, we've treated them like magical shortcuts, a mystery with no clear explanation. But look at what the show is actually telling us. The trees never work like normal portals. They don't send everyone to the same place. They don't follow a simple rule. One person arrives safely. Another ends up trapped somewhere unexpected. Another could die. That doesn't sound like transportation. It sounds like a system making decisions. Think about it. If the trees were simply magical, their destination should be predictable. Instead, every journey feels almost calculated. Almost as if the tree is reading the person before deciding where they belong. And this is the detail everyone missed. Every major character who survives a faraway tree comes out changed. Not just physically, mentally, emotionally. Almost like they have crossed another level of the experiment. That's not travel. That's progression. Imagine a laboratory with multiple testing rooms. When one test is complete, the subject is moved to the next chamber. The faraway trees may not be escape routes at all. They may be elevators between different stages of the town's design. But here's what changes everything. If the trees move people according to hidden rules, then someone wrote those rules. Trees don't judge people. Systems do. Now think about the boy in white. He appears at impossible moments. Sometimes he helps. Sometimes he says almost nothing. Sometimes he simply watches. The biggest mistake fans make is assuming he's either completely good or completely evil. The show never confirms either. Instead, it presents something much stranger. He knows things no child should know. He appears where he shouldn't be able to appear. And somehow he always arrives just before history changes. That's not coincidence. That's timing. Ask yourself one dangerous question. Why does the boy in white never explain everything? If he truly wanted everyone to escape, Why speak in riddles? Why disappear before answering the most important questions? Because maybe helping people escape isn't actually his job. Maybe his job is keeping the experiment balanced. Too much hope. The system fails. Too much despair. The system also fails. Someone has to keep both sides alive. Hope and fear. Life and death. Questions and answers. The boy in white seems to exist exactly in that space, giving just enough information for the story to continue, never enough to end it. That makes him less like a hero and more like a caretaker, someone maintaining the machine. And this is where it gets darker. What if he isn't trapped inside the town? What if he belongs to it? Now connect that idea to Jade. From the moment Jade arrived, he refused to accept impossible answers. He searched for patterns, numbers, symbols, logic. Unlike everyone else, Jade treats the town like a puzzle. But why does the town answer him with terrifying visions? Ancient soldiers, strange symbols, people from another time. Many viewers assume these are ghosts. But that's not the only explanation. What if Jade isn't seeing spirits? What if he's seeing previous versions of the experiment? Fragments that were never completely erased, like corrupted files inside a computer. Every vision could be leftover data from earlier cycles. That explains something extremely important. The people Jade sees rarely interact with him naturally. They almost repeat moments,
Freeze.
disappear, or behave as though they're trapped inside a memory. That's exactly what corrupted records would look like. Not living people. Stored information. If that's true, then Jade isn't haunted. He's accidentally accessing the town's archive. Think about how terrifying that really is. Every vision would become proof that countless experiments happened before this one. Countless groups arrived. Countless groups failed. Countless histories were buried. And yet tiny pieces remain. Enough for someone curious enough to discover them. That's why Jade keeps seeing more than everyone else. He's looking where nobody else is willing to look. Now, let's go underground. The tunnels beneath the town may be the biggest clue of all. Everyone focuses on the monsters sleeping there. But that's not the real mystery. The real mystery is why those tunnels exist in the first place. Natural caves don't contain carefully organized sleeping areas. Natural caves don't feel intentionally connected to the entire town above. Everything about those tunnels suggests infrastructure, like the hidden machinery beneath the stage. Above ground, the performance. Below ground, the mechanism. And here's something even stranger. The monsters don't always seem interested in attacking immediately. During the day, they remain hidden. They wait, almost like workers waiting for their shift to begin. That behavior feels programmed, not instinctive. Imagine a computer simulation. Certain characters activate only under specific conditions. Night falls. The monsters activate. Sun rises. The monsters return underground. The schedule never changes. That's not biology. That's programming. Now, ask yourself this. Who programmed them? Because predators evolve. Programs are designed. Every rule inside the town points back to intelligence, not randomness, not magic.
Design.
Even the weather seems suspicious. Storms arrive at moments that increase pressure. Food shortages happen when hope begins to grow. Communication breaks down whenever people start getting too close to the truth. Notice the pattern? Every time the survivors begin understanding something important, the town responds. Almost immediately. It's as though the environment itself is listening, reacting, correcting, like an immune system protecting its creator's secrets. And this is where the entire series flips upside down. We've always assumed the characters are exploring the town. What if the town is actually exploring them? Every conversation, every argument, every sacrifice, every impossible decision, all of it becomes valuable information. Information collected over decades, maybe centuries. Imagine thousands of people entering the same controlled environment. Each group reacts differently. Some become violent. Some become leaders. Some lose hope. Some discover faith. Some search for science. Others surrender completely. Every outcome teaches the creator something new. Suddenly, the town isn't a prison anymore. It's a classroom, a laboratory, A machine built to understand humanity itself. And if that's true, then the biggest mystery isn't who survives. It's what the creator is trying to learn. Because no one builds something this complex without a reason. Every symbol, every nightmare, every impossible coincidence, every rule, every exception, they all point toward one terrifying conclusion. Someone is still collecting results. Someone is still waiting to see how this version of the experiment ends. Which means the survivors may not be approaching freedom at all. They may be approaching the final test. And whatever happens in that final test could reveal why the town was created in the first place. Now we've reached the most dangerous question of all. If every road, every monster, every vision, every symbol, and every impossible rule was designed, then who designed it? The obvious answer would be a monster, or an ancient curse, or even something supernatural beyond human understanding. But none of those explanations fully fit the evidence. Because the town doesn't behave like something driven by evil alone. It behaves like something driven by purpose. And purpose always begins with the creator. But here's what changes everything one last time. What if the creator never intended to build a prison? What if they intended to build the perfect model of humanity? Think about every major character. Boyd represents responsibility. Even when fear surrounds him, he keeps making impossible decisions because someone has to lead. The town constantly forces him to choose between saving one life or risking many. Those aren't random situations. They're carefully designed moral tests. Tabitha represents hope. Again and again, she refuses to stop searching for answers. Even after witnessing impossible events, she believes there is another layer to the mystery. The town repeatedly challenges that hope, almost as if it's measuring how long hope can survive before turning into despair. Jade represents logic. He rejects superstition. He wants evidence, patterns, and explanations. Instead of accepting fear, he attacks the mystery like a scientist. But every answer he finds only creates a bigger question. Victor represents memory. More than anyone else, Victor understands that forgetting is dangerous. He protects drawings, stories, and small details that everyone else ignores, almost as if he knows the town wins the moment people stop remembering. Donna represents survival. She focuses on keeping people alive today instead of chasing impossible answers tomorrow. Her choices create stability, but they also keep people inside the system longer. None of these characters feel random anymore. Each one represents a different human response to impossible circumstances. Leadership, hope, logic, memory, survival. Look at what the show is actually telling us. The town isn't studying individuals. It's studying humanity itself. And this is where it gets darker. Imagine that the creator has repeated this experiment hundreds of times. Each cycle begins the same way. New people arrive. Rules are discovered. Communities are built. Fear spreads. Hope returns. Someone searches for answers. Someone loses faith. Someone sacrifices everything. Eventually the cycle collapses. And another begins. If that's true, then every cycle produces more data. More observations. More understanding. That would explain why the town feels so prepared for every decision the survivors make. It's seen those decisions before. Maybe not from the same people, but from people just like them. And this is the detail everyone missed. The town rarely stops people from asking questions. It simply makes sure they never find the complete answer. That is a huge difference. A prison hides the truth. An experiment allows the subject to search for it, because the search itself is part of the test. Every theory the survivors create, every argument, every act of trust, every betrayal, all of it becomes another result. Now think about the monsters one final time. Their smiles suddenly make sense. They aren't smiling because they're enjoying the hunt. They're smiling because they already know the outcome. Imagine watching the same play hundreds of times. You know every line before the actors speak. That's how the monsters behave. Patient, confident, almost amused. Because they've witnessed countless cycles before this one. But here's the problem. This cycle is different. Boyd has broken rules that previous survivors never broke. Tabitha has seen places others never reached. Jade keeps uncovering patterns that should have remained hidden. Victor remembers more than the system expected. Even Ethan's strange understanding of stories feels important. He often describes impossible events through simple childhood ideas, yet those ideas repeatedly mirror the truth. It's almost as if children can recognize patterns that adults have forgotten. Separately, these moments seem small. Together, they suggest something incredible. The experiment is beginning to fail, not because the town is becoming weaker, but because the survivors are becoming unpredictable. For the first time, different pieces of knowledge are being connected. Boyd carries experience. Victor carries memory. Jade carries logic. Tabitha carries hope. If those pieces finally come together, the creator could lose control. And that's exactly why the town has become more aggressive. Notice how every major discovery is followed by greater danger. New monsters. More terrifying visions. Harder choices. The closer the survivors move toward the truth, the harder the town pushes back. That's not coincidence. That's resistance. Almost like a machine protecting its own source code. But here's the biggest twist of all. What if escaping the town isn't the final goal? What if exposing its creator is? Because even if every survivor somehow walked away tomorrow, the experiment would continue. Another road, another fallen tree, another family, another cycle. The real victory isn't leaving. It's ending the system forever. And that may require something far more dangerous than escape. It may require confronting the intelligence that built the town in the first place. Whether that creator is human, something ancient, or something beyond our understanding. The evidence points to one terrifying truth. The town exists because someone still needs it to exist. Someone still believes humanity has one final lesson to teach. That possibility completely changes how we should look at from Season 4. Maybe the next chapters won't focus on finding another exit. Maybe they'll focus on finding the architect. Not the monsters. Not the tunnels. Not even the faraway trees. The mind that designed all of them. Because once you know who built the maze, you finally understand why the maze was built. And if the survivors ever stand face to face with that creator, they may discover something even more horrifying. The town was never the experiment's greatest achievement. Humanity was. So, here's the final question. When the truth is finally revealed, will the survivors destroy the town? Or will they discover that they were never meant to escape? They were meant to become the next creators? If that happens, then every mystery we've been trying to solve since the very first episode won't be the ending of the story. It will be the beginning of a new cycle.